When examining educational policy, there are a lot of various factors to consider. We need to be considering whether we're comparing different institutions or even different states to each other, or if we're comparing countries internationally. Some of the best data sources in the United States include the U.S. Department of Education, where you can find a lot of the laws and educational policies that are put forth throughout the entire United States. However, the National Center for Education Statistics also provides some very interesting ways to compare various institutions of higher education. When looking at policy analysis in education, it is not a quick process. Many institutions, whether we're talking about a K-12 school or if we're talking about an institute for higher education, go through a very long and lengthy process to develop curriculum, to then assess the curriculum, and reflect on how effective the curriculum is. When we're talking about policy analysis, this process involves all different levels of stakeholders, from the parents to the students to the educators, and then on up to a board if we're talking about institutions of higher education, or it can be administrators if we're talking about K through 12 education. These various levels of institution make any type of changes to curriculum very long and slow. In order for a curriculum to actually be affected, there needs to be at least a year-long process to examine the curriculum, to examine the various forms of assessment used throughout the curriculum, and these are the things that the school or institution's governance or board of governors are oftentimes concerned with. When we're looking at various curriculum as well as the policies that guide this curriculum, we have to look at the local, state, and even federal levels to make sure that all of the educational laws are still being applied. In regards to promoting diversity, many schools, when we're talking about K through 12 education, promote cultural sensitivity or cultural diversity training. For some school districts, such as Clark County School District, it is an optional way to earn professional development credits to attend some type of cultural diversity workshop. Many teachers are informed, whether informally through their administrators or formally through an educational training or workshop, about the various diverse backgrounds of their students and how to be culturally sensitive to that. In institutions of higher education, there's greater diversity, but also international students who have to be taken into consideration. Some institutions have laws or regulations that help guide international students, as well as dictate the responsibilities of the institution, as well as the responsibility of those international students. Having these international students on campus, however, really helped to promote diversity and global awareness and even global competitiveness in those host countries. When analyzing funding for K through 20 education, there has to be a distinction between K through 12 and then institutions for higher education. For the most part, K through 12 education is financed at two levels. You have the local level through property taxes, and we also have the state level through budgetary allocations. When we're talking about institutions of higher education, some of it is still financed at the local level through property taxes. However, not much of it is. Most of institutions for higher education's funding comes through state allocated funding if they are public universities, or it comes through private donations if we're talking about a private university. However, institutions for higher education also rely on federal grant funding. This grant funding can be contingent upon the amount of students who are accepted into the university, or the amount of students who are even graduating from the university in various measures. Many universities and colleges rely on state and federal funding for research grants. Many of them are conducting research in laboratories along with federal government partners.